He is an Elite Series champion, a three-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier, originally from Toowoomba, Australia, now makes his home in Tennessee. Carl Jocumsen joins me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course you, my humpers. Happy hump day, and welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 207th edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I hope wherever you're watching or listening from, that life is treating you well. A brand new tradition on this podcast, gotta let you know before we go any further. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this podcast are that of the participant and should not be reflected on anybody else. These are just conversations, and everybody has different opinions, so please do not sue us. That being said, it is a big week in bass fishing. I'm actually there right now. While you're watching this, I'm not here. I am in North Carolina at the Pasquotank River for the third stop of the 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series. What is set up to be an incredible event. This is going to be an old school bass beatdown, which I think is exactly what the bass fishing world needs right about now. So I'm excited about that. And when I say we need it, we just need a break from some of the craziness that is happening in the fishing world, the craziness that is happening online. And obviously, the biggest story out there is the Scott Martin story. Part of me really thought I should say nothing, because nothing I say here, I mean, if you like what I say, you'll be like, aha. If you don't like it, you'll be like, well, he works for Bass, so no wonder he's saying that. And I do work for Bass. But I think I've proven here that I will tell my honest opinion, the honesty that I know, the situations, the stories that I know, I will share with you guys. And even the fact that I said that, some of you probably roll your eyes, so why am I even saying it? Let's move forward. Before we talk about the Scott Martin situation, I got to say, I'm a Scott Martin fan. I have been for a long time. I was one of the first people to reach out to him when he joined the Elite Series, when he was trying to qualify for the Elite Series. I was on his show years before that, the Scott Martin Challenge. I love what Scott Martin brings to this sport marketing-wise. He is good-looking, well-spoken. He is a generational angling icon. The Elite Series, marketing-wise, is stronger with Scott Martin. I hate the fact that he is not going to be part of the Elite Series. So don't take what I'm about to say as anti-Scott Martin. I love having Scott Martin on the Elite Series, and I'm sad that he's not going to be there. That being said, rules are important. Rules are very important. And I get it. I've seen a lot of people, and a lot of you have sent me messages disputing certain rules. I don't like this rule. I don't like that rule. I don't like polygraphs. I don't like whatever. And that's okay, because that's what you're allowed. You're a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of the NFL. There's certain rules there I don't like. But that's what the players sign up to play under. And in the Elite Series, that's what the competitors sign up to compete under. The rules are the same for everybody. And it is Bass's job to keep those rules. And those rules weren't just thought up by Bass. Those rules were created partially by the anglers. We had Lee Livesey on this show last week talking about how the Anglers Association works with Bass to make rules. I mean, part of the reason that there's more polygraphs is the anglers. They wanted them. Part of the reason that the polygraphs are more stringent is the anglers. They wanted them. Part of the reason that there's a no information rule, and there has been for years, is because the anglers wanted them. Rules are important. So you got to keep them. And they got to be the same for everybody. That being said, you can't pick and choose rules. You can't say, I like this one and I don't like that one. When you're an Elite Series angler, you signed up to compete under these rules. These rules ultimately protect the anglers. So when you're in an investigation over a protest, you can't say, guess what? I don't want to take your polygraph. I'll take mine. I'll buy one. I mean, And that's not just fishing, that's life. You can't get pulled over by an officer and be like, "Officer, I do not want to take your breathalyzer. I will gladly do another." That's not how it works. Rules are rules. They're important, and you can't massage the rules that you like versus the rules that you don't like. You signed up to compete under them. They protect the anglers. The other thing that has been tossed around that I just find alarming, it's a witch hunt to get rid of Scott Martin. In what world would bass want to get rid of Scott Martin? He is a generational angling icon. He is one of the most accomplished anglers on tour. Good looking, well spoken. What, does bass just not like people with nice hair, nice teeth that are good at their job? No, it's foolishness. And I see these things float around in the news and whatever. And I try to always be a critical thinker and look at things fact-wise. Why in the world would bass want to get rid of Scott Martin? But it's Bass's job to keep the rules. There is 101 other Elite Series anglers that compete under the exact same rules. And just like people would want those anglers to be held to that standard, so does Scott Martin have to be held to that standard. You can't pick and choose. I wanted this rule, I like this rule, but I don't like this rule. You can't have your own polygraph. That's just not how it works. I mean, if you ask me, Scott Martin missed the opportunity to do the ultimate flex of all flexes. He said he was planning on leaving the Elite Series. Said he feels this is a witch hunt. Said he would pass the Bassmaster polygraph. Well, why not take it? I mean, the ultimate flex would be go take it, pass it, hold that sheet of paper up, say, I passed, but guess what? I'm out. Then nobody be saying anything, but he didn't do that. He chose to leave before the investigation was complete. And that's why there's so much controversy. That's why there's so many people wondering what's really going on. I find it disturbing that we live in a world where people are more obsessed over who protested him, how the rule is wrong in their opinion, without actually looking at the person that allegedly broke the rules. I mean, it's black and white. And people like to throw around this gray. I talked about it last week. You can't seek information. That's not gray. It's no more black and white than you cannot ask for information. And I don't care. Somebody says, it was this many months ago. If you break a rule, you break a rule. If you step over the line in football, you step over the line. If you're short of the line, you're short of the line. It is black and white. And it is disrespectful to the sport to imply or say anything else other than that. And I get it. You're a Scott Martin fan. As I said, I am too. But if you're a fan of the sport, you're also a fan of 101 other guys. There's not specific rules made for specific people. The rules should be the same for everyone. And if you ask me, that's what was proved here this last week, that the rules are the same for everyone. How ironic is that? 2 weeks ago, the internet was like, look at Bass being too easy on Scott Martin. And now just 2 weeks later, they have turned it into it is a witch hunt to get rid of Scott Martin. Come on, man. Really? Last year, Bass is not enforcing the rules enough. We're 2.5 events into the season. 2 events, I guess. Classic, it's removed from that. 2 events into the season, and it's like, Bass is power. They're just nuts. They're trying to get rid of Scott. Like, really? Come on, man. Bottom line, I wish Scott Martin luck. I will miss Scott Martin on the Elite Series. But I go back to my initial thought, and I've been saying it for weeks. You got to respect the sport. And to respect the sport is to play by the rules that is set out in front of you. There's lots of good stuff in the fishing world, though. Lots of good stuff. I mean, this past weekend, DC, Dustin Connell won his 3rd Red Crest championship. Not only is it amazing that he's won 3 out of 6, but it is amazing that he took that moment and decided to focus on something positive and shutting down the negative. He actually talked about Easton Fothergill in his moment and how the internet reacted to Easton's win. So kudos to you, Dustin Connell. I mean, that shows a lot, and the world needs more of that. Speaking of being positive, that's where we're going to go this week. And I decided, who can we have on this week? We need to bring the world up. And this is a guy who finds light in the darkest of darks. He is probably one of the most positive people I know on this planet. Without further ado, let's jump into this show with Carl Jocumsen. Carl Jocumsen, let's have an awkward hello since we've already talked for 25 minutes. How are you?
Good. Yeah, you always say this. We always should start recording from the start because we talk. There's a few things we probably shouldn't talk about, but
it's
always a good conversation.
Yeah, and I do that. You know, I don't do that from the start. I also don't want to feel like I'd like and you're not in that situation, but it depends on who I talk to. But you want the guest to kind of be chill and comfortable, and I feel like if we're live. I feel like it's just kind of different. I mean, that's what I do at Mercer in the morning, I guess. But you know what I mean. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to do it. I might.
It helped me with. It helped me with the last one we had because I was kind of fired up and I was like ready to just, say some things. And then when we spoke, I was like, oh, I'm actually wrong on a few of those things, and I'm glad I didn't air it. You know what I mean? And that's why I like talking to you, because in private we can talk, and I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking about that wrong, and you've been always good about that. And so if you do it live on a podcast, then it's out there for the world to see where you help me to get on track first.
Well, I think everybody helps. That's what a conversation is. You know what I mean? Like it's whether you're talking about whatever, it's two people, whether you're talking about throwing the dead smelt rig, it's two people giving their opinions, and sometimes an opinion changes it. But I try to look at things from a fairly non-biased standpoint. You know what I mean? Like I work for Bass, and it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, he works for Bass. Of course, he's part of this. They tell him what to say. And I really wish they would more. I mean, because they don't at times. But let's talk about you. Dude, you created the freaking glider. I mean, when you think of the thing, have you ever stopped to think about that? I was thinking about that before we connected this morning. I'm like, I mean, he didn't invent the bait, but as far as there's people that you've never met before that are doing a live stream, some are doing a video and throwing a glider.
It's pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah, if I had thought about that before I even came to America and said one day glide baiters in America would be saying glider, I'd be like, no, there's no way. It's definitely become it's something cool, and people yell it out or say something, or they'll write it in the messages or whatever. But yeah, it's cool. I love that bait. I love throwing it, and I'm glad people taught me more about it over here, and it turned into one of my favorite techniques by far.
It's so weird when you think of all the things that in any business or sport you try to hey, we're going to do this, and this is really going to Fear My Heart. That was something intentional, and it has caught on. Yeah. But you don't have as many people putting that in your comments as you have glider.
No. Even the way,
unintentional.
yeah, that was literally, that's the way I say it. It's how River got her name. Like it's River because that's how I say river. I say river, but I haven't lost my accent, which has been a good thing because I would get hell from my mates back home if I did. But a lot of people they lose their accent when they come over here, so I'm glad I held on. Toowoomba accent stuck strong.
I like it. I've always heard, and I mean, I know this was the case because I used to have an Irish accent, but I've always heard like most people lose it if they change, like when your voice changes. So if you, like I immigrated before I obviously had hit puberty. I was 5 years old. So as your voice changed, that's when my accent changed. But I guess it all depends. I mean, I remember when we first moved here, my brother he'd say things like ketchup, like he'd really try to.
I've had to change stuff like the way I say it when I'm at a restaurant or at a servo. I say gas station. Like if I'm having a conversation, I'm like, if I say this, I know they're not going to know what I'm saying right now. So I better order it like this. Otherwise, no one's getting the right food, especially like if we order it. We've had some pretty funny things. Everyone writes my name Kyle on anything. Like if they're like, what name on that? I'm like Carl, and they write Kyle every single time. So that's always because I say Carl, like I just say like CAL. I never put the R's in it. There's a lot of funny ones that just. One day I could not get this lady to understand ice. Because I said, can I get a bag of ice? And she said, what? And
Rice?
I was like, yeah. She didn't have a clue. Like, she didn't even have a guess. And I was like, frozen water, like in the bags, the thing. And she's like, oh, ice. And I was like, yeah, ice. I was just must have been saying it ice. She's like, what is that?
One of my buddies from Japan, Kenichi, he used to work for Shimano Megabass. He's been around the industry for a long time. I don't know. You might even know him. But he's got a very strong Asian accent. And one late night we were at Denny's at iCast. And he tried to order an iced tea. And it comes out and it's purple. And he's like, this isn't what I ordered. And the girl says, yeah, high C. And he goes, no, iced tea. It's a very funny video. I have it on my phone, but if I posted it anywhere, I would be canceled.
Yeah. I know people say, at least you speak English, over the Japanese guys. And I'm like, I don't think I do in the South here. No one knows what I'm saying. I have to translate everything. Living with Fred, and then I've had lots of people like that are hanging around me longer. They're like, I'll say something and then they're like, he means this, especially Kayla. She's like, he actually means this. And then things get done.
So I feel weird even asking this because, I'm obsessed with your child. It's one of the cutest kids in the world. Just got an incredible personality. But her name's not River, it's Riva, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
we spelled it.
So you spelled it that way. Okay,
RIVAH.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. But I figured I'd clear it up before it became embarrassing 20 years from now or something.
No, it's River. Yeah, she's a little weapon.
Oh, she is. She's a pretty awesome kid. Growing up, do you ever have any nicknames?
Yeah, I'm Jocko to all my mates back home. I've got some nicknames that we can't say on here, and one's my own sister calls me that we can't say on here. But no, growing up in Australia, everything's short. Carlos and Jocko were the main ones, I think. And but yeah, everyone has a nickname in Australia. No one gets away with no one gets away with their full name. It's shortened somehow, some nickname. It'll be their middle name, or actually sometimes it'll add something onto it. So it's like long, I don't know. They'll add a word so it's O, like Jocko, or they'll put an O or something on it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, they do that in hockey. Like they add stuff. Like they add if your last name's Shore, you're Shoresy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's exactly like literally the craziest part is Canada is identical to Australia, like almost like in every aspect. Like as soon as I get around it or near it, or Canadians like you, Gussie, it's just like it's straight Australia mode. The sense of humor, just everything about it is so weird that it's like around the other side of the world and it's like almost exactly the same.
That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. See,
Yep.
the nice thing about everyone having nicknames in Australia is you don't like. See, I grew up and I almost never had a nickname. I was Mercer always. Like just people
That's a
meet me
nickname.
and I become Mercer.
Yeah.
Like But I mean, I guess I went through a stage where some guys call me Big D. But that was just, I mean, really a passive aggressive insult, it turns out. Depending on how you want to look at it, I guess. The way things are short form nowadays, it might be a compliment.
Yeah, you should have kept that one.
Big D indeed.
That's what it is. Exactly.
That's just how I'd answer it. People be like, Big D, I'd be like, indeed.
Yes. Thank you.
But I always grew up like not jealous, but you know what I mean? Like when you're a kid, you're like, I'd like a cool nickname, but I'm just Mercer. But I mean, it's worked out okay. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I think Mercer's cool. I think that's perfect.
I mean, it's my name. I don't really.
Now it's the name of your podcast. Everyone knows. That's cool.
Yeah. I don't like that though. Like I would have been much smarter to call it something to do with fishing for search reasons and stuff. We literally only called it that because we had a logo. Like we're too lazy to. So it feels weird. You know, I don't know. I think that's the truth about all things like that though. Logos and things you spend so much time, like even Facts of Fishing, my TV show. I thought that was a cool name at one time, and now I'm like, I don't really like it. I don't like the logo, but I think that's human nature. You get bored of stuff.
Well, you get good enough and big enough at it, like then the name becomes like you could never imagine it anything else. Like that's how Mercer is. Like when you say Mercer, you don't think of it as your last name. You just think of the podcast as called Mercer.
Really?
That's quite Well,
see, I'll never think of it like that.
Yeah. You're in a different spot, but to people, it's like someone you call a dog or a name or a kid something, and then you're not sure about it. And after a while, you're like, yeah, of course their name is that. Like it couldn't be anything else. It's once their personality and everything comes out, it ends up sticking.
Yeah. Like you probably thought of other names for Riva, but now when you're like, wait, how could we have called her anything other than that?
It would be impossible.
Yeah. And here's the truth, just so you know, it's a unique name, a different name. When she gets older, she'll hate it. Just so you know. Yeah. I mean, she'll be like, why didn't you call me Sue? Or something. Because I have a daughter named Cadence. So I understand that. So I thought, this is a really, kind of unique name. And, it had meaning for several different meanings to us and to her. But she would rather be like some ordinary. I think she likes it now, but she went through a stage where she didn't like it. I think all kids
got that in the future.
So how's everything else in life?
It's been good. It's been an awesome off season. Went back to Australia, fished the Barratul with Gussie, got to Murray codfish, got to see my family. Hang out there and then come back to Idaho. Like off season was unreal. Really hooked into sort of my health and fitness as sort of always do, but really sort of locked down and come into this season just feeling, really incredible. But had some awesome sponsor changes. I never like changing sponsors, but we had some just incredible ones with Crush City being the title sponsor. We got Yeti. Went back to Skeeter Boats, which is super cool. There you go. We both got Yetis.
Whatever, but you got a deal. I paid for mine, bro. Just saying, hey, Yeti.
Mercer.
Well, I picked this thing up no less than 12 dozen times a show.
We'll get on it. That worked out awesome. Like I couldn't imagine being a kid and saying Yeti one day would be one of your your big sponsors. So that was amazing. And I got a cool story behind Skeeter. Skeeter was my first bass boat back home in Australia, my first real US bass boat. Got it imported, ZX190. They had an Evinrude on it back then, which is so weird because they don't have that. So the way it worked out, they were sent over there. But and then the trip I won to the US was called the Skeeter Trip of a Lifetime, and I got to go to the factory and meet everyone. And there was a guy there. Yeah, there was a guy there called the guy that took me over, Josh Batterson. He was the Skeeter sort of owner of Australia, and he'd imported hundreds of boats. And, I'm telling him what I want to do. And he knew the US sort of industry. And he's like, dude, like what you're thinking about doing is like, it's impossible. And I was like, I know. Anyway, we went to Lake Fork, and then we came back to the Skeeter factory, and they showed me around. And the big guy back then was Ben Jarrett.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I said, hey, I want to ask you about something. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I want to move to the US and like fish and try and make the Bassmaster Elites. And he was unreal, like all positive. Like he was just like, yep, like you could do it. And he's like, this is the path I'd take. I'll write an email out for you. And he's like, hey, you drop everything and you do this, there'll be a Skeeter waiting here for you to use for the first year. And I was like, and so like that was like my like, because I had nothing. Like I'm just like, what am I going to do? And then next minute I got a boat, and so I went back and he wrote me an email out like, this is what I'd do. I'd start as a co-angler. He gave me like a bit of a mapped out plan, and I rode that plan to a T. Like I did exactly what he said. I knew one person, but. So super cool. Fished my first Elite Series event in a Skeeter. Fished right through from 2011 to 2015 in a Skeeter, and then now we're back in one. So that's super cool. And Chris Brown's there, who's been a massive supporter of us like from the start. So they're just so family. I love like my sponsors right now. They just love like Kayla, Riv. They love our family. Like they just it's all those little things that just make this industry like so fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I battled. I'm trying to get US citizenship right now for the last probably 5 months. And so that's been another battle because of everything that's going on, and even with Trump getting in. I have a 10-year green card. I'm married to Kayla, but it's still like sketchy. So I'm like. And I got my family's here, my little daughter's here, and so I never wanted to do it because I thought I would have to give up my Australian citizenship, and so I never wanted to do it. But now I can have dual citizenship, and so we've applied for that, and I've got it and everything. So we're just waiting. But that was like a couple months of nightmare paperwork, all of that fun stuff.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
So you don't just marry someone and get it.
No.
Like everybody believes.
Yeah. Good luck getting it. They put you through the ringer, I can tell you. It's crazy. But yeah, got all that done, got the boat sorted, and then rolled into the first event, and it's been awesome. Had one tough event, one good one, and then the classic was unbelievable. So cool.
Yeah. Man, you had a good. I mean, I think you're having a good season, and the classic was good. It blows me away, dude. That like I got it the first classic you made, but this being the third classic, and I don't know if it's just an excessive number or if they're just the loudest and get my attention. But like at every takeoff, there's Aussies that are just, it's just and I know. I know Ian and I know your family when I see them and stuff like that. But I mean, there's just people that are just huge supporters. Yeah. That has to be so humbling to you.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's super wild. They just like the mission to get from Australia to here is a huge expense. It's why my family can't come every time because it's 10 grand at a minimum per person, probably like for flights and all of the stuff, and it's a full blown mission to get over here. So to see them and the way they were there, like every morning at takeoff, like they're there in the stands, they're the loudest, they're just pumped up and just so excited, and that they're just such a huge driving force for me because I for a while there, I thought, I'm going to lose all my Aussie supporters and fans when I come to the US, and like, not that I had it like I was, but I had like I built my career in Australia, and I'm like, I'm going to just give all of that away to come here. And the cool part was it like tenfolded, and it just got more and more. And the more I got beat down and the more I fought back, the more people got behind me. So yeah, the Aussies in the stands, they make it, and being able to do the Aussie chant. And what was funny is that this one that we did on the final day, like half the crowd did it.
Oh yeah.
Like I couldn't, you could usually, we just heard like the Aussie to, my family, and then a group of the fans. And this time, like half the stadium did it, and I was like, that's cool. And I got so many messages after that final day weigh-in, just so many positive messages, and people like, my kids keep saying Aussie, 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 oi, 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 and just the message up there. And it was, I come off that stage, and for the next couple of days, it was super cool.
Today's high-tech fishing world can be a real pain in the neck, especially if you're running the wrong mounts. Beat Down Outdoors, they bring the graph to you, and they support this podcast and care enough about you to make this a short ad read. Check out Beat Down Outdoors. Now back to the show.
Yeah, very cool. One of my favorite parts is when I saw you pull in on day one and realized you're actually weighing in from a land down under, because for those of you that don't know, this has been an ongoing battle where I have said, Carl, give America the Australia they want. And I don't care if in Australia it isn't deemed as the song to come out to, but damn it, it's the Australian America wants and the world wants. I mean, dude, is it going to be a thing, or are we just little times here and there?
No, like I really like the song, like, and Aussies love it too. They're proud of that song. Like it's not like a gimmicky song. It's a, like, the Aussies love that I come out to that song. My only hesitation was like, from a, whatever age I was thinking about the classic, like I had certain songs in my head that I'm going to, come out to, and it's going to be, just a big pump up song. And that was like never on the list. And so I was like hesitant, and I'm like, but like I was in my truck, and Jesse, he reaches out about the different songs, and he was like, asking me, which one, at Bass, and he's like, which ones? And I was, and I was going back, and I listened to it loud in that section, and it like gave me, like, it sort of choked me up and gave me goosebumps, because I was thinking about my country and representing Australia, and I'm like, Dave's right. And I sent it to him and said, I literally sent it to him. I said, hey, I'll keep Dave happy. Play this one.
Dude, I wish you could have seen my face, because I had no idea you were playing it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I heard it, I was like, and dude, you have such a unique opportunity. Like, it's just, I honestly think that whatever somebody weighs into, they should stay that. Like, they should find a song and get known for it. You know what I mean? Like, KVD for years was Thunderstruck, and it worked so good for him.
Yeah.
He changed a few times, but I just think that and I think you have the unique opportunity. And I think if you don't seize it now, here's the future. Let me just tell you the future. There's this guy, Tommy Wood, that's working real hard to make the elites. Dude, he will cheese it up. I mean, I'll have him out there with a pet koala. I think Tommy will do it. So you better embrace it, or else you'll be like, damn it, Tommy.
You got it. No, I know. It's like, I have a bit of a struggle with, I don't want to like get attention because I'm from Australia and like I'm different. I've always wanted it because of my ability or what, of my fishing accomplishments. So I never wanted to like lean on that, but like I'm more leaning back towards it now because I'm just proud, I want to show that I'm from Australia and that, and represent the Aussies the best way I can, and not sort of, not go back towards that. That's probably why I fought it a little bit for a while. But it's seeing Tommy come over is just another, just that's like the next biggest thing that just because no one's been able to do it, and he's the next like guy. And I'm just trying to help him as much as I can. I want to see him, and like I said to you, I don't want you to be able to say the only Australian anymore, and having another Aussie there will be like one of the proudest things. And he's the next one to do it. He's got the guts, he's got the heart. I think he can do it.
Yeah,
and the skill.
Definitely has proved that he's got the skill too. For as little time as he's spent here, I mean, he's made an impact every single time he's been here so far.
Yeah. He's sitting good.
He
points.
I mean, then all he's got to do is make top 50, right? And then he's got a shot. That's going to be a shootout at the end of the year. But I think that's such a weird thing that people, and I get it. I understand how they go through it, but they're like, I don't want to be just known as the Australian guy. I want to be known as, and you are known as a great angler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You are known as, but you are Australian. I mean, because I think there's probably some people that are like, man, I wish I had a gimmick like that. Like, and it's not a gimmick. It's who you are, right? I mean,
it's just like America is so cool with how they champion people like that, like what America doesn't realize. And like, look, we see all this hate on the internet if you want to find it and search for it, and it's Americans talking crap to Americans and whatever they want to be doing. But they are the minority. They are the little tiny speck in the ocean that have the loudest voice. They got the little squeaky wheel gets the grease. They are getting it. But for me, away from the internet, away from the news, all I have ever received is unbelievable amount of love and support from people in America. It's insane what they have tried to do for me. And like, even Australians have this perception of what America is, because like, dude, we go home and we watch the news and my like jaw drops. I'm like, no wonder you think like this. It's unbelievable. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, this isn't happening. I travel around the entire US through every different state, and I've never seen or heard this happening, what you're listening to on a daily basis every morning. Like, Australia covers the news in the US better than the US does. It's wild. It's like, and because it gets the clicks, because Trump and everything, they're so polarizing, like it gets the attention. But the Americans have this thing about being arrogant and all of these different things. Like, growing up, people used to say stuff, and then when I got here, I'm just like, it's nothing like what anyone had ever said to me. And people literally offered me their homes, their houses, Fred and Jean and all of these people. And then people that I'm competing against and trying to, get to where they are, they're trying to get me to get to where they are. And then, the crowd listen to them, at the Classic. Like, I'm from Australia. I'm beating, US guys. I'm beating your guys. They're cheering loud as they can cheer for me. They want that. Like, they want you to come here, and as long as you show respect and appreciation for how awesome this country is, they will champion you and want you to do well and want you to enjoy what the freedom that this country has. And so, again, stop looking at the internet and the comments and listening to people that don't do it. Because I just thought the other day, I came out of the weigh-in on day 3 and I was driving and I was like, this was the coolest Classic ever. Even though I was disappointed I didn't win, because I feel like it's a win. Like, I wanted to win. I felt like I could. And on the final day, magical stuff happened, and it didn't. And then bad stuff happened, but I end up having an awesome day. But I almost had like a 30 to 35 pound day, which I still wouldn't have won, but it would have been pretty freaking cool to bring in a bag like that. And I can tell you what happened about later, but after it, I was just like, everyone was saying the expo was packed that final day, the stadium was packed, everyone's cheers were so loud, it was unreal. And then like I clicked and there's all these negative people saying stuff. I'm not clicking on it, but they're doing videos saying this is wrong, this and that. And like, I was thinking, I'm still have this positive view because I'm so busy. This was 2, 3, 4 days later.
Yeah.
I hadn't clicked on anything. I hadn't looked at anything. I'm too busy. We're driving. We're trying to get back to Tennessee. We're doing all this stuff. And then I was like, because I didn't look at it, I still had the perception of how awesome it was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was there. I'm not guessing. I was in amongst it, talking to the people that are there. And going back to how America treats everyone is when the Aussie fans get here, they yell out Aussie, 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 welcome to America. They buy them beers. They go to bars. If you're wearing a Team Jocumsen jersey, they don't pay for anything. And all these Aussies just have all of these stories, and they're like, I'm coming back every year. They've made friends for life. And like Tommy, he knew no one. He knew me, and that's about it. And I helped him just a tiny way. He's done it all himself, but just to get a little connection. And then now he's got all of these guys on the opens that he's rooming with, they're helping him. Like it's unbelievable. And yet we sit here and focus on just the crap.
Yeah. Well, that's the world, though. You know what I mean? Like it gets more traffic than the positive. And listen, as soon as you say that, you're going to have people say, well, some stuff needs to be talked about. And I totally agree.
Yeah.
You do need to, I mean, dude, your goal in everything in life should be to be better every single year. You know, like I have never, ever walked off the classic stage once and been like, nailed it. That was awesome. Like I'm my own worst critic with my own job. And I think most people are, you know what I mean? At the end of the season, even if you went Angler of the Year, I remember Paul Nick said it when last time he won Angler of the Year, he says, I could have won it better. There was weaknesses but that's also why he's who he is, because you keep trying to make things better. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with critiquing things. I just think that it's just way too easy to burn everything down because, and a lot of it, dude, is I mean, last week's podcast, me and Lee talked about how exhausting the classic is.
Yeah.
At no time did I say that is harder than digging a ditch. At no time did I say that is harder than any real job. I mean, I'm just saying that it's a mind-meltingly busy thing that you get exhausted from. And sure enough, I get a message from a guy, well, you guys are just talking about everyday work. You should try to do a real job. You just whined about 3 days of talking and fishing. And I'm like, nobody whined at all. This show is supposed to give you like a behind the scenes. And that's, the classic is like a gauntlet you got to make it through. And it is exhausting, but it is the greatest thing.
Yeah, it's still the best thing ever.
Oh, I soak in every minute of it. Like, the more tired you get, the more you're like, yeah, but this is the freaking classic. And next Thursday, it's going to be normal.
It's going to be over in a blink. Yeah. And that's what people don't realize, that, you know, it doesn't, like, think about how hard just life is in general to like navigate and get through and survive and do all these things that you've got to do in general. Whether you have a 9 to 5, whatever job you have, it's difficult. When you try and fish for a living, which is absolutely insane, like that's nuts that is even a thing. It's nearly impossible to hold. You have to keep working so hard and never back off, because you'll lose it in a second, because there's so many people that want what you have and they're coming underneath. And even though you're not doing a laborious job, it's like, I just want people to understand that, like, it's just like whatever you want to do. It's just like that. To survive, you're going to have to work as hard as you can, whether it is a 9 to 5, whether you're an entrepreneur making a business, it's exactly the same. No matter what, if you back off, you're gone. You're going to lose everything. You cannot back off. And sort of the young kids coming up, they're going to understand that, like, you're not going to keep catching them like that. You're going to have to do, you know, and guys learn that you have to have all of these other things in place so that when you don't catch them, you're going to have to step up and still, you know, be at the top of the game. But you just said it before, is it's easy when you said to be negative, and that's the 100% the thing. And what I tell people is that all the good things in life that all come from difficult stuff. And being positive in this world, it's so hard. It's the most difficult thing to do. It's nearly impossible. And that's why I try to do it. Because I know that running is hard. I want to do it. I know that staying in the top 100 guys in the world is hard. I want to stay there and do it. I want to compete. I know all of these things, they're all difficult things. They're the things I want to do because I don't want to conform to the easy things. And I get caught, I think one of the guys at Bass the other day, they did an interview and they said, you just make, you're always positive, you make it look so easy. And I stopped him and I said, it's the hardest thing in the world that I have to do. And he was like, really? And I said, you try and be positive in this world. And I was like, try it. I said, you won't get any clicks. People won't watch your stuff. Like, you don't blow up. It's just a continual hard grind, and you try and do all of these things that are cool and positive, and you do late cleanups, and you just go like this, but you climb. I feel like your life stays better, longer, and you are just on this gradual climb. But around you, it's going to keep showing up. It's going to keep, like, in front of me every day of my life is a button to click on. I cheated in the classic. I did this. This guy got disqualified. They're just sitting there right there. And when you click on that, they've dragged you down to their level, and they've actually gone above you because you're making them money, and they're going to continue to do that while you keep clicking on it. So my advice, and this is what I've done, is if you look at my Instagram, it's so positive. It's everyone that I ever want to learn off, be, grow, do, like people that are getting after it. That's all it is. And then when I get on YouTube or anything else, I see the other stuff and I just block it. I get it out of there. I don't want it in front of me ever. And so it's a life decision, and it's nearly impossible because that clickbait headline is going to be there for you to click on every single time, and you're going to have to stop yourself and say, I'm not going to watch that now. I'm going to watch something different. And so, yeah, they are a bunch of people are a problem. They keep putting stuff out, but you're supporting it. They're getting the kickbacks. They're getting pumped up. They're getting the adrenaline rush from getting 50, 100,000 more views because you're feeding it. And so for me, people that write positive messages, keep doing that. It means a lot, because if you post something positive and it doesn't get much traction and no one says anything, you just sort of like that. You shouldn't put people's opinion at the front of your life like that and worry about it. Who cares? But but when you see a bunch of people supporting you through positive stuff, it makes you want to keep doing it. And so we're doing it to the negative stuff. And so it's just pumping it up tenfold. We shouldn't be talking about just these people that aren't in the industry, that are never going to compete, that are never they're not going to be at the Classic. They're not going to compete at the Classic. We're listening to it like it's gospel. And I'm like, you're never going to be there. You haven't done it. You're not going to do it. Why are we listening here? So just to the people, for me, and what I've learned over the last couple of years is the more you feed that into your brain, the more you're going to get dragged to below that. They're going to pull you down and drown you, and they're going to get lifted up. And so it is a conscious thing that you have to do, and it's a battle that you'll fight every day. The news, the YouTube, social media, you got to clean it all up. You got to get it out of there, and you got to choose to feed yourself the positive stuff. If you don't, it's just going to be an endless circle, and you'll never get out of it. And like, I just think when I see the clickbait stuff, I'm like, I know not to click on that because I know I'm going to watch it and it's like not true, whatever it is. And then the headline's kind of the same and people click on it the next week. And I'm like, it's the same thing. It's just they're getting you to bite. So it's a challenge that I want to put out to people to stop clicking on that stuff, start writing only positive messages and following the positive people, and your life will change. Yeah. It won't change theirs. It'll change yours. And yeah.
Well,
stop reading the comments.
Well,
you have to a little bit when you're a business. I think you can get some you can get some, positive criticism out of it, I guess. So
I mean, I think I'm somewhat impervious to the comments now, just to the point that, but I also feel like you can't get too high on the high ones and you can't get too low on the low ones. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, go on the internet, never even mind negative. Go on the internet and realize how many people are being called goats for like, that means the greatest of all time, which used to be like so reserved. Like, you wouldn't say that about, and you see people like they're all goats. Like, everybody's like, so even in a positive way, you can't, and it's no different than somebody who's like, this sport is done within 2 years. So you can't take the highs too high, the lows too low. And also you can't take it personally. Like, to me, hey dude, if you didn't like, the most polarizing topic, if you don't like forward facing sonar, that's cool. There's parts of it I don't like. There's parts of it I do like, but there's definitely parts of it I don't like. But I would never let anything rob me of this sport. Like, to me, there's parts. I mean, I love NFL football. There's parts of the NFL football I don't like, but I don't be like, I don't like that thing, I'm out. I'm never watching. Like, it's just.
That's a difficult thing to do, though, because you have to have a strong will to hear someone say something about you and then not take, like, people, probably my biggest criticism is I try to message people back on my social media. I want to be interactive, but like, I can't at night, because if I lay down and I'm with my daughter River and Kayla and I click on that and there's 50 people saying, this is awesome, keep it up, and then one guy says something dumb, I'll be thinking about that before I go to bed or something. I'm like, I can't allow that into my life. So I have to be real careful of when I sit down and I can actually do it. And I've gotten so much better. Like, I don't care what people think near as much as I used to. When Kayla and I first got together and Facebook was just around, we got savaged on Facebook and the internet. And we thought it was like, we didn't know what was going on. It was wild, because people were like, Carl's got a girlfriend now. He's not going to be able to catch him anymore.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. and Kayla did a video on setting up our Lance camper, and it went viral somehow. Like, something happened, and like it literally had 2,000
maybe it had to
views.
do with
then,
Kayla.
It did have a little bit to do with that. But in a bad way, it went to, like, our sort of supporters and fans were always nice, but when it went viral, the comments were nasty, and we were like, and now if that happened, you just understand, like, but back then you sort of took it personally, and you were like, oh, these people are thinking this of us, and it crushed you. So I get it, and I hope Easton and young fellas like that get that, and he seems like a super level-headed kid, and it's all, how you grow up and your parents and stuff. And I think he'll understand that, that what they're saying isn't the be all end all. They're talking about something they really don't have a clue about.
I wonder if people like Easton are even more equipped for it than we imagine. Because you think of Easton when you were 22.
Yeah.
And I think of Easton when I was 22, and I compare it, but I didn't grow up in a world where, like, it is the most, I mean, it's got the stupidest name, social media. It's the most antisocial thing ever. But and listen, me and you are both benefactors from it. We both work, so there's positives to it. Yeah. But you think of, like, how kids grow up, and they're going to have, like, I think every kid grew up and thought, even the coolest kid in school didn't think they were the coolest kid in school in most situations. You know what I mean? But now they've got, like, a meter that rates how many likes you get, and how. So you've got that. Like, it's got to be such a weird time to grow up in. But I always fall back on a line from Swindle, and it's one of, he has many lines, clearly, but it's one of the best lines he has. And he's like, people on the internet hate Jesus, and Jesus didn't do anything to anybody.
Exactly.
And when you think like that, you're like, great point. That's a really good point. So it, I think it becomes even more important to be positive. And when I say positive, again, I don't mean not talk about real issues. I just mean the the ridiculousness. Like, dude, I mean, you talked about titles, and I battle it on this very show. But you just said a few minutes ago, you were referring to a title, but you just said, I cheated in the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
Dude, if I took that little quote and released this podcast, and it's Carl Jocumsen, and there's part of me that wants to do a little experiment. And I just titled it Carl Jocumsen, I cheated in the Bassmaster Classic. Like, do you realize how many plays this video will get?
We want people to listen, I guess. Like this. So Scott, like Scoot, that shoots for us, he's always battling it because he's like, how much do you want this to blow up? Because he gets gold on the water all the time. I had an argument with a guy at St. John's River, all the way in the back of this canal, and he wouldn't let me go around him. He had his lines out, and me and him went back and forward, and it was just, it didn't get ugly, but I was just like, we had a pretty good little argument, and Scoot's like, this is YouTube gold, dude, like this is 100,000 view, and I just, don't worry about it, like we never put it in there. But so there's that stuff all the time that's very tempting to do, but I just feel I got to keep fighting to keep it the way I sort of see it. Maybe I'm the silly one. I don't know.
I think I'm on both sides. Like, I do see it. I think it's ridiculous where everything is that, I think, I think you have to play the game to a certain extent, but you have to, when you get into the video, it's all going to be decent. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel it's the content that judges everything ultimately. But I also feel like in that situation, I wasn't with you. I don't know exactly what happened. But I'm also like, is it good to hide that stuff?
Yeah.
Because that's also one of the weird things that makes this sport stand out outside of anything. You guys do it in a public playing field. You can put in as much time, as much pre-fish as you want. And if you show up and some dude
guides there,
and the other weird thing that'll happen, because it might not have happened in this situation, but the next thing that'll happen is you won't release it, but somebody on shore will, and then they get to kind of control the narrative of it.
I just don't like. I don't know how these guys like go through life with so much like controversy around them. I'm like, I wouldn't sleep at night if people thought this about me, but they're seeing dollar signs when they see like something major happen, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to live like that. But it's once you choose to live like that, you've picked a really hard road to go down to try and. But you got to just not worry about the likes or the views. You got to just keep doing what you think's right, and you got to give people value. That's I think that's the number one thing, is just try and, if you can't do the clickbait thing and you can't just get that attention, then you got to give people good value for what they're looking at, and that's always a battle, because right now sponsors and everyone they need us and people more than ever, I think, to be doing good stuff. Selling, showcasing their stuff.
I think you know what's right and wrong. At the end of the day, and I think there's also certain people that are wired for that. Like, with some of the stuff that's happening around our sport now, when I get calls about, hey, there's a question on so and so, and they may have broken a rule. My reaction is, are you freaking kidding me? And I put my head down, and I hate hearing it. There's another group of people in the world that are like, whoa, let me get all my phones out and start calling people. And but that's just how people are wired. And again, you got to do what is right for you. Because
I battle with like, I gotta like, competition wise, you might have some good advice for this, because it's something that is really, it's hurt me over my career for sure. But I'm way too nice on the water in competition, and it's really hurt me this year, and it's cost me blue trophies, many of them, and it's starting to, I'm like, I gotta fix this, because you can't be friends with everyone. you're in competition, you have a right to be there. So like it's such a strange one to navigate, and I've been battling it the last, especially this year, and I'm just like, I got to do something about it because it's starting to affect me. I'm starting to get mad about it because I'm like, dude, I have the right to be there or whatever it was, and I'm just too nice, But and it's probably my advice for the young generation coming up. Forward facing has definitely helped you not have those interactions as much. You don't have this spot. You're just chasing. So I'm like, oh, these young fellas that are doing it flat out, they don't have those harsh reactions, like interactions, because they're just like, I'll just go over here, I'll do it here. You have more open feel to do it. But when it's like, technique specific or spot specific, it makes it really hard. But I wish, because I'm the most competitive person I know. I want to fight. I want to be I want to be a boxer. And like, if we were in a fight, like, you're going to see a different side of me. And I'm going to have zero sympathy for you at all when we're competing. And if you compete against me in pickleball or anything, I'm not going to give in to you. I hope you hate me at the end of the competition because I want to whoop you. But in fishing, I like everyone. I'm friends with all of the guys, and then their families, and then you get in a situation, you're like, which way do I go right here? Because here I can win, or I can make a top 10, or I can make a check. And if I make the decision to go the other way, keep that person happy. But now I'm, in the 80s, and I've just done it too much. So it's my advice to young guys with what I've learned is, don't be nice in competition. Be a good person. But don't be nice. You can still be a good person and not be nice. And that's what I wish I've had more. Like, before I got kicked out of the elites, I gave way to so much stuff. And I'm like, because I just respected the guy so much. And I'm like, I don't want him to think I'm only here because of him. But I found it fair and square. It's like mine. I should be there. And it has still happened, moving forward. But when I got kicked out, I didn't hear from anyone. Who's called? No one cared. Like, I could have. And I was thinking, like, you could be this nice guy, and now you're working at wherever, Walmart, and they're like, yeah, that was that guy. He was super nice, wasn't he? And you're like, yeah, I don't have a career, and I went broke. So that's not good either, So it's such a tough one to navigate.
Avco not only makes incredible outdoor clothing, but they care about anglers with their 10% pledge. Avco and the Shed family donate at least 10% of the company's profits to conservation and making fishing better. Now back to the show.
Yeah, you need to stand your ground on the water, that's for sure. I mean, I feel that's the truth in any line of work. I mean, if you're doing sales, you need to be nice, but you also, I mean, dude, everything, dating. I mean, there's a certain level of, I mean, if you want to date that girl and another guy said he wants to date that girl, but you really in love with that girl, you got to step up. What? He needs a girlfriend. I've had a few recently. You can't. I just think competition. I think that's one of the weird things that's happening in the world, where everybody, like, you go to a lot of kids' sports and everybody's getting ribbons, and that's not how the world works. Like, dude. It ain't going to work like that. Like, you're going to get some breaks in life, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to work, and you're going to have to show up every day. And the moment you stop is the moment that all of a sudden it doesn't matter what you do. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter your past. Like, I'm sure if you accomplish a certain amount, there's a bit of leeway, but ultimately you're judged. I mean, dude, look at KVD. I mean, who's going to accomplish more than KVD? He didn't win a tournament for 5 years, and the entire world said he was done. He's finished. He'll never win again. And you're just like, well, wait. I mean, he won 20 of them already, and then 7 Angler of the Year said now he's just done. But that's just, again, how the world is. So you got to stand your ground. Obviously.
It's kind of, you definitely do. It's kind of good in a way, because, like, the guys left for MLF, and I'm like, people are never going to, like, forgive these guys when they come back to Bass. And, like, first year in, it was like it never happened. And that's a good thing. I think the world is kind of forgiving, because, stuff happens so fast. The next thing is coming around the corner. But
I think the right decision. I mean, I just think you have to.
Yeah, it's so hard, eh? Like because it's a mental game of like, which is the right thing to do here, because that person doesn't know that you were just there right before it, or you did find, like, you know what I mean? So you're just always like battling this little thing. And I just love helping people. So I've said too much when I'm in tournaments, and then help someone that wouldn't do it back to me. And then next minute it costs me. And I'm like, why did I do that? But I would rather.
I could see your weakness happening more.
Yeah, I have just, but at the same time, I don't want to be sitting on top of a pile of money and trophies looking down at everyone. I want my mates and the people around me to do good as well. Yeah. I love seeing everyone succeed, but it's just it's been a tough one for me to navigate. Like ABT, Australian Bass Tournaments in Australia, their motto, so this is from when I was 14 years old, was "Who shares wins." That was their motto.
That is not.
That's not a good motto to have when you're doing it for a living. And I adapted that, and in Australia, I worked in tackle store for 10 years, and I just loved getting people to catch fish. And so, like, when I was in an ABT tournament, I'd literally be rigging my rods up, and there'd be 10 people, all competitors, around my boat, and I'd be tying on what I'm going to use, and I'd say, I'm like twitching plastics off the deep edge weed bed, but like I knew they couldn't do it as good as me, and there was something about it. But here, you get a sniff, and you can do a lot with it, and it can hurt you. So you just. Yeah,
I think that's also where the sport is too, though. Like when you were doing that in Australia, you guys, the goal was to grow this, to expose this to more people. Like if you look at Bass's history, at one time, Ray Scott had the bus, and in the bus was Roland Martin, Bill Dance, Jimmy Houston, a bunch of different anglers toured with them, and they'd go from town to town, do these seminars and everything. And at that time, I'm sure Bass was more like, who shares wins, what I mean? Yeah. Because they're trying to share the sport of bass fishing. But I think it's like anything. I mean, if you get into go-karts, at the beginning, it's probably like, get as many kids to do this as possible. But by the time you get to F1, dude.
Yeah, you better be a killer.
I mean, like if you think, I mean, you can't let your foot off the gas in our world, but it amazes me, watching F1. Sarah's a big F1 fan and has been for years. But watching that like series, you just see how relentless it is. Like you've got this hot young rookie who doesn't do well in 3 races, and you went from being like on the posters of everything to see ya. Like it's just so quick. But I think the more limited, the more. I mean, you gotta. I think it's the same in every sport. But so stop being so nice. We're gonna make a more edgy, angrier Carl.
You don't want that. I've got some built up anger. No. I've had to look at it and say, all right, we gotta stop this, because I'm giving away stuff that I deserve to be there. I found it. I'm there. I need to be able to fish it, and I'm choosing not to. And it's not the way to compete. That's not competition. And so, I'm sure other guys have. It's in everything, but just the background that I've come from has kind of hurt me, because that's, in a way, it's like in that sense, it's just like that's how I was brought up, and that's how I grew up, and I want it.
Remove yourself from it. So remove yourself from it when you're making that decision. Like think about this. Who are the top 3? I'm putting you in the spot, but top 3 anglers in the Elite Series that you respect, how they play the game on the water. And it doesn't have to be top 3. Just name 3.
Yeah.
You're going to inevitably miss somebody, and they're going to hate you for this. But
well, you like Hackney, Christie, those type of guys. You just never see you never see them ever. Like that's that's how I try to be too, but they're just like next level where they're in, areas where people aren't running into them. But I think probably my mistake is like I get a bit caught up in like, this is the spot that you need to be. And it actually happened at the Classic this week. And last week, and I got into this backwater, and I actually got help from the guy who's an awesome dude, and he helped me. But then I realized like I wasn't going to be able to go back there the next day, but I put so much on
I know
that
who
area.
It was.
Yeah.
I know, because actually Lee told the story.
Nicest guy in the world. And he did what I wouldn't do. He helped me more than any angler. Like, it was nuts. Like, he gave me just a couple little clues, and I caught him. But I found that spot 10 years ago when I lived in Frisco. I found that backwater. I knew they were going to be pushing up in there, and unfortunately I went in there at 11 or whatever. But John, he helped me catch that 8, like 3 better ones to fill out my bag just by giving me a couple little small clues. And then my fault was like, that's where they're heading, that's where it's going. And when I didn't go back there and I just went fishing the next day and the day after, they were actually swimming into there, and I cut them off like 200 yards from going in there. And that's when I had that giant last day. Like, I should have had a 35-pound bag. And I was like, that was my fault for being like, you got to be just here. This is good.
Yeah.
But when I realized, I was like, there was more of it just there. You can't be so focused on like what you right here. And even John, I think he said it on the last day, he caught 11 pounds in there. He probably should have had an open mind to be like, I've beat it up. I probably need to, expand out. And literally just outside of there was giants on every second laydown. It was unbelievable. And something that you go.
That's what it always comes down to, though.
Yeah,
like, it always comes down, like, if you sit in there and you win, you're a legend. Like, look at the intestinal fortitude. How did he know that this is what was going to happen? If you don't win, you're like, if I'd have moved.
Should have moved.
Yeah.
Should have moved.
But that's my point with removing yourself from it. It's like when you're on the water and you feel like, should I be in this spot or should I not be in this spot? I would remove yourself, and you've spent enough time around Hackney, around Christie, and around people like that you respect. And just answer the question that way. If I was Greg Hackney, do I move? And I'm not even talking about the John Cox situation. I'm talking about just what you had brought up.
All the time.
It happens all the time. But because if you have to remove, I mean, I just think if you're leaving an event thinking I could have done better, you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah,
because
sure.
And I know you, dude. I don't know that you're gonna have to force yourself to make some tough decisions, but that's also who you are. Like, I mean, I don't know. You can't get walked over.
No, that's
and that John Cox,
thing.
He was. Said nobody ever.
No, he was unbelievable on that day 3. Like, he saved my butt, which was really cool. But it's also the Classic, and I was like, you got a chance to win. I understood, with the next day, but that was my And what's interesting is on day 2, I left and I caught a 3.5, a 6.5, and a 3. And I was like, all right. And I just it didn't quite click with exactly what was going on. Like, I just got a bit sidetracked with it, but I was close. And then on the championship Sunday, this is what's funny, and elite guys will know about this, is at 9:30, I finally get my first bite, and it's a 7-pounder, and it came off a stump in a shallow cove with the grass. It had all of this stuff lined up, and I literally had my hands on it twice, and then I had it pinned against the boat, and I'm fighting it, and I had a bit too much line out, and I reached out and I grabbed the line, which you never do, and as soon as I grabbed it, it just went brrr, and the bait came out of its mouth. And I got so affected by that because I knew, like, that's the building block to now of what I can do to make a comeback here. And to get that bite again, it threw me for such a curve that I went away from, like, what the deal was. Like, that was the deal. And but it was like it never happened. When you lose it, it's like something switches. You got to say, like, no, I just got a 7-pounder to bite. it's got to be more. And for whatever reason, I just got diverted. And then next minute I'm running around fishing all of this stuff. And I'm like, I think it was 1:30. So I was doing it at 3:30 and I went back and I was like, there's got to be more like this. And that's when I started to work my way around. And then there was these shallow pockets and the wind was blowing into it and no one was there. And I'm like, this just looks right. And I put my raptors down with this tiny little lay down. Next fish I got was another 6-pounder, jumped off at the boat. And then by that stage, it was just like, I was just like laughing. I had a 2-pounder. I'm like, obviously today is not my day. And then my next cast out of the stump, another 7-pounder eats it. And I land it. And I'm like, at least I got a big one. And I got it in. We're all fired up. And I got everything sorted. And I threw along the grass and I just crawled it. Donk, 6.5-pounder. Went to the next point, another 6.5-pounder. So now I had 20 pounds or whatever for 4. And then my next cast where that 6-pounder was, I hooked one that it was the double digit of the tournament. And I just pulled the hooks on it. But it was like an hour window of just like, it was like what you could imagine happens when just everything lines up and you win the classic. Like if I was at least within shot, like in that top 10 going into that last day, and then I have a 35-pound day, I would have had a chance to win.
Yeah. I think it's got to be hard to stop yourself. Like I always, when I watch other sports, like when I watch football and you see receivers dropping passes, a lot of times you can see they're dropping the pass because they're focusing on the next move when they're catching the ball.
That's right. Yeah, it's the same thing.
And it's the same with you. Like to take that moment and be like, it didn't happen. Let's just focus on the pot. It's tough to do. It's tough.
Yeah. But all in all, unreal classic. Everything was amazing about it. And I see people, and you discussing things. Bass has got a few things to do with Bass Track and I got to talk to Chase and Philip and the thing, and just about how to get people in there. And I want people to have that feeling what I had in the stands. That's what sort of drew me. Like you want to be to where you can't wait to go to the Bassmaster Classic weigh-in, where we've done such a good job of coverage or whatever that now it's not as big a draw card, but I think if you put a few things in place, we can get it back.
Wow. I mean, just so you know, I was in an all-day meeting yesterday, literally in an all-day freaking meeting, which is not a good place for me to be ever. But about that very thing. I mean, so Bass knows that they got some challenges with the weigh-in. I would also say there was a lot of things against the weigh-in this year. As far as like logistically and stuff like that, I think we will not battle those in Knoxville. And I think ultimately we need to speed up the weigh-in. It's gotten out of control. Like it's and it's not even just the actual Elite Series weigh-in. I mean, dude, we opened the doors and for 2.5 hours, nothing. I mean, you have college weigh-ins and you have a bajillion shirt tosses and stuff like that happen, which are all good, but it's actually counterintuitive to making it a fun event. Like when you go to an event starts and it finishes and you leave in a timely manner. I think there was a lot kind of against them there. And I think that, Bass Track makes it tougher, but I also think as the guy who hosts the weigh-in, you would think I'd be like freeze Bass Track. And, and there's part of me that does think that, like if we freeze Bass Track 2 hours before, but I'm also like, are we really freezing Bass Track? Like, if you think about it, for this was the 55th Bassmaster Classic. For the first 45, whether it was Ray Scott or anybody, they sat there and they dreamed, like, could you imagine a day in a world where we have live bass fishing? And we've had it for 10 years, and now people are like, you need to shut that off. So the arena is
going to be full
the way it was, And dude, the arena crowd was decent on the final day.
That's great.
And I think in Knoxville we won't have the problem because everything's closer together. And I think ultimately Bass's job is going to be to make it more exciting, to make it a better. I mean, because the people that were there, I mean, the amount of messages and stuff that I've got where they still have that feeling. They still, but things change. Like, I mean, and it's from good stuff. Like, dude, you can cover the tournament sitting on your couch looking at your phone. You can cover
Yeah.
the tournament flying in a plane if you have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You don't need to, like, back in the day, nobody will ever do the job better than Ray Scott. I mean, he invented the job. He's the chicken that laid the egg, but dude, nobody knew. Nobody knew
Yeah.
nothing. It was
No.
like a
Yeah.
reveal, like nobody knew.
Yeah.
So I think there's some work that has to go back to that. And for you guys, for the anglers, like, you guys don't need to know. You guys need to, and I know it's impossible.
It's hard.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Everyone's
I
coming
also
up to.
think it's a sporting event of some, whether you want to consider it a sport or not, that's always a debate, but it's a competition. And in competitions, you have blowouts and you have close ones. If Easton doesn't catch that 8-pounder as live is leaving the air, it's a much different way, and it's a lot tighter. Nobody really knows. So that's what makes the ones like when
And
Christie
the Elite
won.
Series,
That's what made it so special.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes
Ounces.
it's a victory lap, and that's, I mean, dude, now twice in the last year we've had a guy win an Elite that didn't even have someone take the hot seat. Both Corey and Brandon now have nobody.
Yeah.
So that was an anticlimactic way, and it's just how it's going to happen at times.
Yep. No, just as we add all of these things, we're just going to have to adjust the other things, I think. But I think even if it was an hour before, just to give, hey, you don't know if someone caught them or what, something like that, and then just make it a little bit. There's tons of incentives and stuff. I honestly think, I know we all want more money, but if we can up I think that end prize money for the Classic, like, it needs to be up 500 plus. I think that is a draw card for actual fans too. It would be for me, because if it was 500 or in the past it's been $1 million, you'd be like, someone's winning $1 million for bass fishing, and we're the pinnacle of the sport. We're the biggest that there is, and I think that needs to be worked on. I think that would be a huge draw card. You could. I think that is one of the things as well. But
I think that whenever I mean, I'm all for up in the purse for you guys. I'm always for that. I mean, I remember back, and I didn't work for Bass, but I remember back when it was being lowered to 300. I mean, the reason that happened is because guys wanted 10 grand to 50th place in the elites, and that was how they could make it work. And I remember thinking, like, don't lower it, because you're at a spot that but I mean, here's ultimately my honest opinion on all of it. Dude, there's so much positive and good stuff happening, but ultimately we all need to look at every single event, every single moment we're on camera as a moment to bring it. Like, if you think of why you love this sport, there's so many of those moments that flash through your head. You can think of things you saw Kevin do. You can think of things you saw Talk do. Insert name here. So many people that you saw.
Yep.
We got to keep giving those moments. And I think with technology, it's harder now because, dude, forward-facing sonar makes it like talking to somebody when they're texting.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there, but they're not really there.
No.
But I think, honestly, if everybody does that, Bass included, if we work on making every moment special, all of that should grow. Because, dude, there's more young people in this sport today than there ever has been. And that's got nothing to do with forward-facing sonar. Because, I mean, forward-facing sonar could go away tomorrow, and just as many college anglers are going to compete.
Yeah.
They're going to learn how to do it. They already know how to do it in most situations. But,
I've said this before, but what I want to see Bass get back to is they were the masters at creating a superstar, and the guys had a lot to do with it. But, like, for me growing up, the Van Dam, Skeet Reese, and Iconelli and all those names, like, although they were big personalities, but Bass did an unbelievable job of, like, making them a superstar. Like, they weren't working on making Bassmaster the big thing or this or that. They were just focused on making the top guys stars. and telling their stories and showing those angles, like those Super Sixes when the guy's like looking down and then looks up and he like tells something about what it means for him to be there. Those old ones like that, like I just have a knot in my stomach just watching it, just like, and that's how you got your favorites and you followed that guy's career and you wanted to be more like that. I feel like with live and everything, we've gotten away from it. And then forward facing hurts because I've watched the footage. I'm like, oh, I see what we're doing. Like your head's down and they're not saying anything forever. And I'm like, the camera guy's got to say, what are you thinking right now? Like, got to prompt them into doing something. But I want to see, like, those shows have gone away, and that I was so lucky that I got that last show because that's my only win. But everyone still talks about that because I got that cut show that you can look back on forever, and they helped me become a name. They helped tell the story. This is what he's been through. He's come from Australia. He's had it hard, and they showed that emotion. And when they did that, with Van Damme and Skeet and Ike and all of these guys, they created the superstar, and then the fans come and see the stars. And I think we got to get back to that as much as we have to do the fishing as well. I know they got some criticism. Like, it's unbelievable, like Deion Sanders, and we have and Zoner and you guys all do an awesome job, but it's still at the same time got to show the fishing, and it's hard when the guy isn't casting or whatever. But I just remember watching MLF the other day when they were fishing Harris chain, and they keep going from the guy hooked up. Like, they just go, when they pan to the guy, he's going to catch one. And then for whatever reason, no one caught, and they went to Andy Morgan, and and they kept showing Andy catching him. And it was like, all I wanted to do was watch Andy flip, and then no one caught anything, so they kept the camera on him, and he was flipping, and it was the best 5 minutes of the whole thing. I'm like, and then he got a bite and he caught one, but you got to see what he was doing. He talked, and watching Andy Morgan flip for 5 minutes was pure gold. And so I'm like, oh, man, it's tough because they want to keep the action. They want people to look at it that aren't into fishing. But I played the YouTube video that Bass put up, and it has 60 or 80,000 views, and there was no commentary over it. It's on YouTube if you watch it, and we watched it on our way back, and no one says a word for just hours and hours and hours. No anglers, no nothing. I'm like, if someone that didn't fish clicked on this, they'd be like, what is this? That should be, someone needs to be appointed to cut a show. When I caught him on day one, I got to go out the back with the media and do the whole thing, leaning over the chair and talking about it. And I got full choked up, and old mate was like, I got goosebumps, and I could see they knew what to do. They knew what to ask me. They knew what people want to see. They know how to create that show, and all the guys at JM and at Bass, they know how to do it. But they're so busy with live and all the other stuff, and it's like, how do you get the live footage? And then it's like UFC, it is live, but they create. I just keep watching UFC. I'm like, that camera that they have, God, it's probably $1 million, but when they follow that guy out, when they follow the walkout, it's this different view. I've talked to Kyle and Brandon about it. The guy looks like he's in it looks like you're there with him. And it changes everything. You just see what he's thinking. You see what the emotion that he's going through. And I'm like, we have to get back to that in bass fishing, because that's what people want to see, want to come to. They want someone to root for. They want their star, and they want the story. And bass are the masters at it. They always have been. That's why they're the best. I believe they're the best because they knew how to create superstars, and they did it in 2019. Lee Livesey, me, a handful of guys that caught them and had a story. They did it, and then the next year, for whatever reason, with live and everything, it's that those shows don't get cut, and that focus on zooming in on the guy's face when he's making a cast and he's trying to get a bite, all of these little tiny things, and what it would do to change his life and what he's been through. That you didn't. I don't know if you look back. I don't know if you see that as much of Easton, where if you told that story deeply and cut a show of Easton's story, you're sort of seeing it on social after. I think dynamic sponsorships. They cut something up, someone did it, and they've done it for me before, and you watch it, and that's how you get to love that guy, seeing those like high edited clips of his story and his parents talking about him and then what it means. So like, I would love to see us get back to that. And I know that's a massive mission, but I feel like that's where we've gone the other way.
I think sometimes less is more at things. Like I think that's why Christmas is so special, because it happens once a year. If it was every 2 months, you'd be like, it's Christmas again. And I do look back at some of those shows, and I'm like, there was a real specialness. But I think the other specialness that was happening is anything that was said got seen by anybody who watched it. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Because if it's an hour long or it's 2 hours long, every bass angler on earth is watching that end to end, maybe even multiple times in some situations if you're a weirdo like me. But when you go to a live environment, some of those stories are still being put out there, but you got 8 hours of coverage to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Not everybody's tuned in the first 2 hours. Not everyone's tuned in the last 2 hours. And so you don't always get the same message. And I just think like covering in a live event as opposed to putting together a story like that does change. I think that there's definitely some, I mean, I'd like to see some more of that stuff. But I think also we're watching a sport evolve. And I think also the advantage when you look back at the past with Kevin and them, outside of the fact that they had the world's biggest media partner that owned them for a bunch of years, ESPN, and you can't, they owned Bass. They weren't airing on Bass. They owned Bass. Like you couldn't turn on ESPN without seeing one of those guys.
Yeah.
And I also think we way underestimate how much, dude, like how many pro anglers is there now? I mean, you can watch live bass fishing. Like it went from 10 years ago, people saying, wow, this, like me, Zona, and Tommy the night before it started said, this will never work. Like this is bound to be a failure. And now 10 years later, you can watch live bass fishing from so many different circuits. Literally almost every day, every weekend for sure. There's somebody somewhere. So I think that it does change. But I think, I mean, it's kind of like the weigh-in, like are the weigh-ins the same as they once were? No, but we're also watching live bass fishing. Like, there's that trade-off where you're like, but I think as long as everybody's focused on making it better, everybody's focused on doing the right thing, like just telling the stories.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Jerry McInnes used to always, that was his advice in everything. Tell the story, whatever the story is, just tell the story. And so I'm all about telling that story. I'm all about us showing more fishing. Like, I mean, that's what anglers want. Like, so yeah, we'll see. I mean, trust me, a lot of that stuff, like when it's funny because people think that we go through a classic, and even the deemed most successful classics, dude, Bass pulls it all apart and is like, okay, where were we weak here? I mean, they're no different than any other company, no different than you. You left that classic thinking, hey, next time I'm here, I'm going to make sure to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
They're the same, and they are trying to work to make certain things better.
You can see it.
And my take on it all is as long as we're all working for that, we win. I mean, because that's the other thing that was happening in 2019. They weren't just making videos, but you had everybody bought in. You had the entire field saying, you had two groups of people. You had the guys who got passed over for whatever reason were not part of the MLF split. They felt like, I'm going to freaking show you. Then you had another group who was on the Elite Series, but for the entire offseason, all they heard is nobody's going to show up to watch them weigh in. They're not going to catch a bass. Nobody knows their names. But they came in like, I'm going to show you. And at the same time, Bass came in and said, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
We all need to perpetually be in that I'm going to show you state, and we all win.
Yeah, it's definitely on the anglers too. Like when I watch that back and they're not talking through it and stuff, I'm like, guys, we got to get better at talking and just talking through what's going through your head, what's going through your mind. That's all people want to hear. Those updates are gold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone's got to get better at doing it.
Yeah.
But like I do have a lot of confidence in Bass. They're like, but just everyone's getting heat right now. But I think it's going to level out and really come out of it on top. And that, like you said, they're working on it flat out. And I know that. I just want parents and stuff to know that are watching everything, that the sport is in an amazing condition. It's in better than it's ever been. And like, you have a chance, look at Easton, to come from nothing and be world champion just like that. And he's worked hard enough to be able to do that and get there. And that dream is alive and well for everyone, bigger than it's ever been with college and high school. It's in a good spot. We just got a few little. I just don't think it's going to take much to get it, really on track. But I want that feeling, sort of, I don't know, that just there's this gut feel that you get when the sport is like doing everything right, and because it's going through a bit of a transition, you just don't have that right now. But I think we can get it back.
I've run a Yamaha outboard for over 30 years. It has got me home safe each and every time. If you enjoy this podcast, remember, Yamaha supports it and they care enough about you to make this ad read very short. Now back to the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that feeling still exists for people. There's still people who think it's I talked to a lot of people in the expo that were just like that. Like, I've only been a fan for 2 years and I'm loving this. But again, if we all work to make it better, but I also think that this sport weirdly suffers from the, gosh, we got to get bigger. Gosh, we got to get bigger. Gosh, we got to get, we're way too big. There's no room at the boat ramps. Like, we have to also, like, I also look at it, I'm like, how freaking cool is it that we have, like, there's a lot of sports that would love to, like, dude, if you look at what happens at the weigh, and it is the most bizarre thing in the world. Like, I mean, basically you don't see any of the fishing or anything. It's literally just a reveal. Like, here's your champion. And it's amazing that we have fans that are that passionate that they want to see. It's amazing we have fans that are passionate as the thousands that show up for takeoff in the morning to literally watch you guys idle away. That's all they see. Quick interview and you idle away. But there is a lot, right? But I think you just got to focus on doing your part to make it better too. And if we all were doing that, I think we'd be all a lot further ahead, myself included. I mean, there's.
I don't want to lose that takeoff thing and the classic weigh-in, because and not that we're gonna, but like I do want them bigger and better and continue to work, like not go away because we have live and because we have more coverage, because I think that's the kid dream. That's where my dream come from, and I think that's where probably 99% of the guys, like, that's where it started. When you seen that stadium full of people, you're like, are you serious? And again, it's back to them creating the superstar. You do an amazing job of making the superstar. When you come out of that boat and the crowd is there and they have your name and you have your song, that's the dream. That's what we all imagine happening one day. So like, the fight has to be, they want clicks and views and all of that, but like, there's got to be a big importance put on those couple things still too. Bass do an amazing job. Like, the Aussies literally are like, we're coming back every year. Like, every one of them say that. They just have an absolute blast.
Yeah. That's the thing about the Classic, though. It is one of those events. Like, when you go, you're like, I can't miss it. But I think it's because we all get together all of a sudden. Like, I have this theory where we're all just like a group of weirdos that grew up wherever we did, in other countries, in other parts of the United States. But you weren't playing baseball. You weren't playing football. You weren't playing basketball. You weren't playing a mainstream sport. So you were different. Like, you went to parties and it was, hey, there's Carl, the fisherman. That was different. That's what identified you. But you really were like, you felt like you were different always. And I think everybody kind of grew up like that. And depending on where you lived, like if you live in Gunnersville, you're a little less different. Because there's a lot of people that do it, that live there. But ultimately, then you go to this event where there's so many others that are just as obsessed with this. Like, even at the best classic way, and when you look at it, you're like, if there's buddies you have that you have to really explain. Now, this is special because of this, that will never get it. But then you get in a room and surrounded by people that are just, and I just think that that's what the feeling that everybody gets. Like, I want to be part of this again because I just feel it's just my world. Like it's everybody gets me.
You're really in close with everyone, like having all the other elite anglers at the expo that didn't make it, being so close at the weigh-in and at takeoff. Like if you're a fan of bass fishing, like that, and you have, there's nothing no sport where you can get that involved and around everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one by one, like, again, I think there's a lot of great things. I would not listen to a lot of the stuff that's out there, but I ultimately think, like, as long as we're all thinking about doing that, like those morning takeoffs, I mean, I think you bring it every time I give you a quick interview and whatever, and you respond to the crowd and whatever, but there's a lot of people who are just like, okay. Like we all got to bring it and put on the same show that made us fall in love with the sport. And bottom line, there's more kids doing this sport than ever did it before. So to think it's going anywhere is just foolish. But I think there'll be lots of changes. I mean, I think we'll see changes in forward-facing sonar at some point, I would assume. I don't know that it's going away, but I feel like it'll get limited to some certain extent. I could be totally wrong though, but I mean,
that'll be interesting. It seems like, it's a tough one. It's such a tough one because I do think like it's helping, the young generation really get into the sport and, they actually really enjoy it. So like, it's something that's getting them, on the water and on the boat and catching fish.
Do you think it's getting them into it though? You think there's kids that are like, oh, hey, we can play this on screens. I'm doing fishing. Like I don't think that. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but
I think there's some. I think like I've taken kids out that don't like fishing, and then I show them it, and they're like, let's keep doing this. Like they love it, and they don't like fishing, because they like it gives it's more interactive,
Yeah. Well, it gives them something to watch.
I'm just on the fence all the time about it. Like I love how good they are with it, but I could tell like John did an interview, John Cox and a few other guys. You can hear their voice. Like they don't like John was on the winning fish, and when he had 22 and then 22 and then come back in and he's like, I don't have a shot to win really. Like it's a blowout on Ray Roberts, and then really for Lee. He like 30 years of experience, whatever he's got on that lake, that thing trumps that. It takes it out. He doesn't have that 30 years. And I feel for him a little bit because I'm like, damn, his whole life, it all came down and he finally got it on the lake that he like dominates on and lived on. And we only got 2 days of practice, 2 days living there. You could have went there last year and drove around, but still you had 2 days and you can beat Lee on his home lake. That's kind of crazy,
Yeah.
And there's lots of little things, I think for parents that have it on their boat, I think you just like I was fishing up in Idaho with a family up there and we were catching smallmouth, and Kayla's younger brother brought his girlfriend out and she'd never caught a fish before and she'd never landed one, and we were whacking them and I knew like how to get them, and so she gets up the front and I'm finding them and I'm like cast there and these big smallmouth just come rocketing up, and like I caught myself, wasn't quite getting the cast right or whatever, and I caught myself for a second and I was like, I'm going to tell her like how to twitch it, how to move it, keep winding, and I'm going to say, you're on, like you got one, set the hook. And I caught myself and I said, hey, I'll fish here. I'm like, just keep throwing the jig up onto there and just like drag it. And so she did it, and like me and Zach catching them like every couple minutes, we're just whacking them. And then it's she hasn't had a bite in like 20 minutes. And then next minute she was like, oh, and then we look over and she's like bent up and I'm like, she's like, I think it's stuck. And then it's just like starts fighting and 4.5 pound smallmouth jumped. And I'm like, she got that feel of like, that initial bite that we all get addicted to.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important, for someone like that, or a kid, or someone coming up. It's fun. It's a strange technology, dude. It's wild. Wild. It's a laser pointer that points to your fish, and you can see. It's just, I don't know how to feel about it. I love it. I catch fish on it all the time. It's exciting, but it's like, then I feel a bit funny about it at the same time. I'm like, man, there's something weird about it.
Yeah.
No.
Somebody in the comments made a really good comment a couple weeks ago about it, and I'd never thought about it like this. If I knew their name, I'd give them props on it. But everybody always likes to compare it to baseball and the aluminum bat and everything, which is not really true, because the only reason there's no aluminum bat is so people don't die. Literally, as you get to the pros, you will kill somebody. If some of the hitters hit it. But he made a really good point. He said, you don't get to see the signs in baseball. Like when somebody's pitching, you don't get to see what they're throwing to you. And when you do, that changes everything. It's going to be a fastball, it's going to be a curveball or whatever. And that's what you get to see. Ultimately, I think too many young people like it to assume it would ever go away totally. But I think that a schedule that doesn't have it all the time seems to, in my head, and again, this is me personally, this isn't Bass speaking, but I feel like a limit to it would make sense. So whether it's a daily limit, or whether it's half the events have it and half the events don't have it, because ultimately, and I don't think that's a technology thing, I think that's almost a technique thing. Like, dude, if and a technique came out where it was like, that's how you just catch them. Like if Alabama rig was made legal and that's only what you would do, and you saw your angler, you're only catch them on an Alabama rig, I'd be like, we need to do things to show variance. And that's where I think it'll end up.
Yeah.
But
it's still, like this classic was cool, I thought, because it was kind of that versus, old school, and like the fishing was unreal. Like I was like a bit worried about what the fishing was going to be like, because it's such a tough lake, and like the way the guys figured them out up shallow and around the timber and caught those huge bags, and then you had the guys scoping them, which it was like impossible to scope. You turn your trolling motor like that, and there was just giant dots everywhere. Like, so the mass amount of skill that Easton showed to like pick through them and understand it is huge. So like it was cool, because it's always like a fight, and so you just hope that like it tones down a little bit, because it's like so powerful. I like it there, but you want like the standard techniques to be at least be able to keep up with it. And it's sort of like I don't like that. Even at the classic, I started figuring them out on the glide and up shallow on the chatterbait, swim jig and stuff, and I was like, you are teetering with putting yourself out of this classic right now by not focusing on that, and I always have that in my gut, like this is not what you need to be doing. So you're forcing it a little bit to be like, I got to be out there. But when you don't have that in your mind and you solely focus on that and you learn it at the back of your hand, it is technically, it's unbeatable. Like it's unbelievable. It's amazing technology, but it's not easy. Like that lake had everything you could imagine in it. It had gar and carp and drum, and they were all big, and there was just dots everywhere. Like I bet half the field tried to do it and couldn't do it, So there's a fair bit to it, but
I think even for I think that's why a limited schedule, half and half the events or whatever, I think that's why it makes sense. I think a limited amount of time, if you do it per day, whatever, that makes sense. I mean, that was my original where I thought it should have went. MLF's had a little success with that.
It's made it better.
But I think that just because, even for the young guys, dude, if I'm Easton, give me a few without it so I can show you. I can fish.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like they're putting up with some stuff they don't need to put up with and shouldn't. And it's just online stupidity. But that's ultimately, I want to know that the dude who holds the Angler of the Year is tested in every single way. And, no different than, we've had several people who, Patrick Walter's a prime example. He's not won Angler of the Year yet, but he's perpetually in the top 10 for Angler of the Year. And every single year he used to go north, would get to smallmouth lakes, and he would get his skull crushed.
Yeah.
And it was because he spent no time doing it. Well, he rectified that, and now he obviously can catch smallmouth very well.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. And one day when he wins Angler of the Year, that'll be one of the reasons why. So I think I want to be able to see everyone tested and everything. And I think it'll happen. I think you, but again, the anglers can change that, dude.
Yeah.
Whenever okay, so let's say that happens. Bring it on those days when it, just show how different and how excited the world is when you're not using it. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, everybody wants the best product.
Yep. It's helping people catch fish all over and get excited about it too. And there's tons of positives, but we're just gonna we're in the middle of a balance. But I think that would be a good thing. But I think our schedule looks good for the rest of the season, to where you're going to see some good battle outs of shallow water stuff, and you're still going to have those guys that are going to do it everywhere. But I kind of like where you get a battle of guys doing it, just like we had. It was kind of
variety.
Cool, variety, and you got guys that are trying to beat that, technology, and like what John's doing. And it was cool to be in that backwater with John and just watch him fish. He's just an animal, eh? And fishing wise, I think that's what you want to see, footage wise, and for bass, you just want to see John. Dude, I'm sitting there, and I heard someone else say it, but I was just watching John fish. I'm because he's fishing different to me, and I'm he's just a freak. The way he found that, the way the water was flowing through there, the way he positioned his boat, I was just it was cool just to watch. So when it comes to footage, that's what we want to see. We want to see him fish, casting and figuring it out and getting that bite. But
I'm sure we'll see change. That's the weirdest thing that came out when leagues started making decisions. Everybody was like, "Oh, well, that's how it's going to be." No, it's going to change. Just like limits have changed over the years, just like everything's changed. I think you'll see changes. If nothing else, it gives some YouTube channels a great amount of content to punch out.
Definitely. It's put some eyes on the sport for sure. It's put some views on people's stuff. But
all right, so you're gonna win the next event, right? When this airs, the event starts the next day. So it'd be cool. It'd be cool if you just went out and won it.
Yep. And I'll get in a battle with someone, and I'm I'm not moving, and we'll go to the bank. Like Mercer said, hold my ground. Let's go to the bank. Get some real good footage. I'll have you to blame.
You can blame it on me. A lot of stuff gets blamed on me.
I'm excited for that fishery. I never went there. I never got to practice. I decided to go to Texas and sort of warm up for the Classic instead of running up there. But excited for that one. It's going to be, from what I can tell, it's going to be big fish and guys running big long runs. And that Chesapeake Bay event was one of the coolest ones ever, where me and Aaron kind of battled it out in that middle river, and I made that huge run. I thought I had it to myself, and then that's one of my greatest experiences with Aaron. But also going back to me being too nice, there was two giant marinas, and me and him were fishing one, and I went to run to the other, and he was on the other one, and I was like, he can just have that one. And I ran back to the other one, and the marina, 20 boats could have fished it. I'm just but it's just little things. You just live and you learn. But that was pretty cool having that interaction with Aaron with that one.
Yeah. Any interaction you have with that dude is a good one. But you know what?
Positive.
You're a gift to this sport, dude. You're a gift to my life as a friend. I love your positivity. I love the way you think about things, and I've enjoyed our chat.
Yeah. it's been good, mate. It's always good catch up.
Are we calling this? I cheated in the Bassmaster Classic.
Don't do that to me. Just don't do it to me. If I could deal with it, if I didn't have to look at the shares and the.
I mean, dude. You
comments.
didn't. I mean,
I know that's true. That's true. But yeah.
All right.
I'm too nice for bass fishing or something like that.
That you put nice in it. People will be like,
I'm not interested. I'm gonna fight the next guy in my spot. What juice do you need?
I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Hey, for the people watching this with the Fear My Heart stuff, Fear My Heart incentive is still going. Warrior Precast got behind us again. We've got 9 $1,000 checks to give out to any Elite Series guy doing good. Bill doesn't know this, but we're giving Bill the one kind of for Okeechobee, but Bill pays for all the kids in the crowd. He pays for their...
he gave everybody a membership.
A membership in the crowd, he said, if he won. So he's going to get round 2. Jason Christie got the first one for St. John's for giving way to Bill. And so Bill's going to get that one for paying for all of those kids. That's a really cool incentive. I'm looking forward to talking to him about that. And then when you see an Elite Series and next week and you're watching it and you're watching online, keep an eye out for the guys doing cool things. Don't look for the drama. Look for the cool stuff. There's guys making giant comebacks, saving their career, making big, long runs. They're saving people on the water. They're helping other Elite Series anglers out. I mean, they're doing cool stuff every single day. And we get to see it out there. Honestly, I feel like a giant family with the guys. If anyone was broken down, any one of those guys is going to go out of their way to help you, unless they're on their way back to win or something like that. They might say someone else can get you, but that everyone is really cool and they're doing a lot of good stuff. So we're trying to bring those stories to light. And we're doing our Fear My Heart lake cleanup, and it's going to be like a worldwide cleanup this year. We're going to do it through social media, and we're going to try and get people at their home lake, wherever they are, to go to their home lake and pick up a couple bags of trash. We're going to be doing it here at Chickamauga. We're going to have tons of prizes from all of my sponsors, and that's on the 28th of June. So if you want to be a part of that, we had 75 people come down to Chickamauga last year, and we picked up 15 tons of trash in 3 or 4 hours. So we're trying to do good things. Lots of Fear My Hearts getting around, and lots of people that sinks in with in any part of their life, and it's helped me in my life, and I use it every single day. And appreciate everyone that supported us, and appreciate you, Dave, and thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no problem. It's a great program. Just keep putting the good stuff out there in the world, and people will stop noticing some of the one and only Carl Jocumsen.
Thanks, mate.
He did not cheat in the Bassmaster Classic. I wish he would have for the podcast. It would have been great.
See you, mate.
As always, a great conversation with Carl Jocumsen, and a great reminder of all the good things there is in fishing. Remember, that's why we all got into this, because we like how it makes us feel. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel grounded. So what I'm saying is, get outside and turn off the internet. Unless, of course, you're listening to this podcast, and you can make a brief break. And hey, speaking of that, let me know how you listen to this podcast. Do you listen to it while you're working? Do you listen to it on the way to work? Do you sit down and actually watch it? How do you consume this podcast? I want to know. Also, would love to meet a bunch of humpers this week. So if you're going to come out to the event in North Carolina, I would love to see you there. Just holler at me and say hello. Get outside and enjoy yourself. I guarantee you it will make you feel better about life. Until next time, enjoy being, and as always, Bob Cobb, take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?